Hello guys and welcome to my Houdini Procedural House tutorial. In this tutorial we'll be learning the building process of this nice looking house, and it's going to be inside of Houdini, and eventually we'll bring this into Unreal Engine to do our final render. As you can see, this building has every bit of data we need, right, from the base body to the roof to the doors and windows, the decorations and the deck. With the tweak of a few parameters, you can see how we're able to make variants of the building, make it thinner and taller, or we can make it bulkier by changing the size of the building. So basically, we have a whole lot of control to control the shape and the variations of the building. We can even make this super massive one, right, by tweaking up the size of the building by a whole lot. So we'll also be making this environment around it just as a bonus to make it look like a nice demonstration there. And here is just me tweaking the parameters of the building inside of Unreal Engine. As you can see, I can change the C to get a different variant, control how much the top is extruding out, the height of the wall, and also 1 floor, 2 floor, or even 10 floors, right? And then you can control other aspects like the height of the roof, how much does it increment, right? So basically every bit of the data there is built from scratch. Every polygon here on this model is procedurally generated. There are no pre-built assets at all, everything except maybe the flowers, right? Except that everything else is built from scratch, including this door. You can see how we can control the size of the door, right? We can even open it, right? We can control the shape of the profile and even the shape of this handle, right? Doorknob. And even other things inside of the door. So everything is controllable. We have a million controls. You can also control the amount of the windows, and then also different aspect of the window, open, close it, right? And then the bottom piece, right? And then even this column here, you can control the thickness of the base and the profile of the bottom section, the middle section, and you can even control the size and the length of the decorations on the corner of the wall, right? And on top of that, we even add a deck around the house. We can control the amount of the deck, the size of the deck, make it longer. We can even control what's happening to those pillars, right? How big of a gap is there between each pillar, and then the thickness, even how many smaller things are in there, right? And that also goes to the handle on the top, and even the planks, right? How big is the plank? And also, of course, the stair, right? Its length and height and all those kind of things. So even the bottom pavement is generated procedurally. You can toggle on and off the environment, make it denser, have more foliage, change the noise, make it more flat or more noisy. You can even change the asset being used for the environment. So the primary software we'll be using is Houdini, and also will bring our house into Unreal Engine for the final render. And the core concept we'll be covering is procedural modeling, 3D mathematics. This will include dot product, cross product of vectors, and also matrices and quaternions, and how we can leverage those guys to help building our house. We'll actually have a dedicated section to talk about those mathematical terms and what they are before we even use them. And we'll also be using Vex scripting language throughout the whole tutorial. And again, we'll have a dedicated section to talk about the Vex language. So don't get scared. We'll be talking about programming in detail before we even have to use them. Okay, and eventually we'll be also talking about how to use Houdini Digital Asset and the Unreal Engine 5 integration of the HDA. When it comes to the Houdini Digital Assets, or HDAs, we'll be building quite a bunch. Some of the primary ones will be the column, the door, the window, and also the stairs. But to support those digital assets, we're making smaller ones, like this one, the profile revolver, which allows us to use a ramp to define a profile and then revolve out a shape like a glass, and every point in the ramp becomes an edge loop of the glass. And this tool is used extensively actually in a lot of other assets, like the 3 sections of our column, the doorknob, and also the top of the deck. And we'll be also having other utility HDAs to build things like this plank generator for every plank on the house, including the ones on the deck and also the ones on the rooftop. Okay, and also we'll be building things like the handrail generator, which allows us to generate a handrail through a line, right? And then the direction of the line, or the point number order of the line, will determine the direction of the handrail. And we can also build a angled one with 2 lines, right? So we'll be building a lot of Houdini digital assets before we even jump into the building process of the house. So when we get there, we know we have all the assets we need. We just need to set up the logic to spawn them. Okay. The Vex language is also vastly used in the tutorial. This is just something hard to avoid when you're building something complex. And we'll be talking about the programming concept with Vex first. Again, we have a section for that, so don't feel scared about that. And then we'll be talking about the Houdini specifics about the Vex language. And as you can see, we are using Vex a lot. For example, this building process of the roof. From the roof plan to the body of the roof, we went through this graph in the middle, and as you can see, there are a lot of attribute wrangles that we do. And guess what? We used less than 20 nodes to build this thing from the left to right. And much of the nodes are not too complex. As you can see, this one is calculating the height for each roof. When it comes to their resting right on top of each other, they're trying to find the different heights based on how many neighbors they have. So most of the wrangles are not too complex, so don't feel scared that we use a lot. Many of those are 1-line, 2-liners. There are a few longer ones, but I can guarantee you that I'll explain and type in every line here, so you got this covered. Okay, alrighty. And this is just another example of Vex we use to calculate the location and rotation matrices to help us to move a face from anywhere to the ground and then make it laying flat to help us generate stuff on it easily. And this is just another example. We leverage the Vex language to help us define the materials that's going to be used inside the Unreal Engine, and while using also functions and stuff, so that we don't have to create a million Unreal material nodes to assign materials. So yes, Vex is used a lot, but you are learning it for a reason. Procedural modeling is basically programming in many sense. So let's all embrace the Vex part of Houdini. Is actually the must-learn part if you want to harness the full power of Houdini and procedural modeling. Okay, so the whole process of this house is starting with a base form generation, and then after that we build different parts separately. So we're moving on to things like the roof. And you can see how we have the roof built from the base form to the shingles to the sides and inner part, and then finally we merge them together. And following in similar manner, we build the body of the house with the doors, windows, the walls, the columns, decoration, the pavement on the bottom, and then we merge them together. So we're following very similar patterns, and this is the whole graph at the very end. And you can see how each part is just a small section, and we are trying to build the node graph in a very simple, straightforward way. We break it down into smaller pieces. So instead of making a giant tree, we're actually making a forest of small trees, and each step is manageable. And you can see how we're also trying to avoid a lot of crossing lines. We're actually referencing each node from each other using object merge, so that this is going to be very easy to work with. Alright, this is just an overview of what are we going to teach, and there are so much more to cover, so let's just not waste our time and jump right in.